today what I want to go over is the differences between the NETA ATS, MTS, ETT, and ECS. Four different books. They all go on a 4-year cycle, right? So right now the ATS is the oldest book. You add 4 years of that. The new one should come out in 2025. All right. So that should be the next one that comes out next year. The ETT is a 2022. The ETT is going to be electrical testing technicians. This is a specification for how to define and qualify your technicians, right? So if you are a level 1 or a level 2 and you're like, how do I get to the next level? You need to open this book, you need to go through, and it's going to tell you what's required and expected of you. Okay. What amount, how much training should you have? What's your expected, role that you could fill? How long in the field, right? And then at the end of this, what you'll see is that this is the verification from the employer that they're supposed to send in saying, yeah, I verified that he has this and that and this, right? And so right here, this is what they're required to certify you on. Okay, so that's what the NETA ETT is. It's a pretty short one. Then you have the NETA MTS. That's going to be the for maintenance testing. We're going to talk about that in a second. And then we have the ECS. This is for electrical commissioning. We're going to talk about that in another video. Okay, so all four of these books are what the NETA standards are. And what we're going to talk about right now is the ATS versus the MTS. A lot of technicians out in the field be like, man, there's over 600 pages between the two, and I don't know what to look for. So what do we do, right? Well, these two books are almost mirrors of each other, but one is if you're looking at that equipment from an ATS perspective or an MTS perspective, okay? So they both outline all the requirements for NETA testing and then also for what are your inspection criteria for switchgear, right? But one will be for MTS and the other be for ATS. So how do we break this down? Well, they both have a table of contents, and I'm going to go right here to fit one page, so that way it just fits a little easier, right? We go to the table of contents, and you go to the table of contents, and if you look, both of these are really similar. Under inspection and test procedures, they all have essentially all of the same ones, okay? And you go to the NETA MTS, it's essentially all the same ones, all right? So there's going to be some tests that you don't perform in an MTS, and we're going to go, for example, to switchgear and switchboards. And I need to go back and set this thing to one-page view, and then we're going to do the same thing on the ATS, okay? And so when you look at this, what you'll see is that there's no real optional tests for the most part, right, on the ATS. There's a couple here and there, but not nearly as much as there are on the MTS. You go to the MTS, you'll see that there are more optional tests, okay? Performing as found tests, okay? And then here's your electrical optionals, another electrical optional, okay? That's what the little stars mean. So that's the first thing, right? Now, what do we test to? Well, when we test NETA standards, what you should be testing for first is what your customer says. They're the ones paying your bills. So if they give you a specification, you test that first, as long as it's not egregious or it's unethical, right? If they want you to apply 2 million volts to a 64 kV cable, then that's what they want to do, right? I guess they want to blow cable, but it's their testing specification. After that, the next thing you should be testing to is the manufacturer specification, right? And the manufacturer specification is recommended to be viewed and looked at many times throughout the NETA book. Okay, many times it tells you to refer to manufacturer specification, and then in lieu of that, then you use the NETA specification. Okay, the NETA specification is a last ditch effort. Everything else should really be used first. Okay, you'll see that medium voltage circuit breakers, like a 1200 amp circuit breaker, a 15 kV, the manufacturer spec will say 600 amp breakers are rated for 300 microohms or less. 1200 amp breakers are rated for 200 microohms or less. They don't care where it falls below that. NETA says if it's 40 on one and 120 microohms on the other one, then it's failing. But the manufacturer says they're both fine, right? So there's a difference there, and I see it from time to time where people will fail stuff even though it passes manufacturer specification. That just means that they're not RTFM reading the manual, right? So inside of the NETA spec, once you break it down, NETA says that you should be performing these tests. Now, there's Eaton VCPW breakers where they say we don't recognize insulation resistance. So when you go down here on the Eaton manual, it's not in there, but NETA tells you to perform it, right? Customer specification is NETA, you test the NETA, but you don't have a manufacturer specification to look over. So now we use the tables at the end, okay? So the way these are broken out, you're going to have visual mechanical inspections is A on each one, and then an electrical test. This is what they're telling you to perform, okay? Then C is going to be what your visual mechanicals should be. They're your results, okay? And then D is going to be our electrical results. So if you're trying to find out what is passing criteria for a liquid filled transformer, right? Here it is. I scrolled down really fast, but liquid filled transformers right here, okay? D, that's what we need. We don't need A or B. I know exactly to go to D because it's an electrical test and we're looking for the expected test results, right? So was it performed? You can look, was it required to be performed, right? Measure resistance at each tap connection right here. Not to exceed. Okay, cool. It says, yes, you must do it. It's not an optional test. Okay. You go down to D, boom, it says right here. Okay, this is your expected result. So this is how you read your book. Okay, and when it refers you to the end on the tables at the end, then use the tables at the end. But always you follow your customer specification first. They're the ones paying the bills. Then you use your manufacturer specification, and even if you're testing to NETA standards, and that's the customer specification, you should still have the manufacturer's book out for those breakers or for those switch gears if you can. And that way you can compare them and know what a passing result is, because quite often it's going to tell you to refer to manufacturer's specification, like this one right here, liquid filled transformer. In the absence of manufacturer's data, use this table. That means that you're supposed to use the data first. Okay, if we go to cables and you go to switches, I'm going to go down to breakers just after switches. And so if you go right here, medium voltage air breaker, right? Um, manufacturer's data, right? Manufacturer's data. There's a lot of it. A lot of these say over and over again, manufacturer's data. So you should have the books out. Okay. You should be able to know how to do your research and be a test technician, not a monkey out in the field pushing buttons. We can hire monkeys all day long. What we want is test technicians who know how to read the manual and navigate between them and find and assess properly. That's what a NETA technician is. Someone who knows how to assess, not someone who can just push start on the button, write down numbers. We can do that all day long. All right. So hopefully this helps you. They're all structured in order, and just navigate your way through the book, and hopefully you can learn to be more efficient at your job. All right. Thank you.